Okay, the recording has started. This is the November 20th, 2018 Rook Community Meeting, and we will go ahead and start with milestone checkups since it looks like Yanis still doesn't have audio to do his Cassandra demo. So 0.8, there's nothing I'm aware of, no patch releases expected.
Right. Yeah, one thing there, I was curious. Alexander, you had put together something for an upgrade issue with long host names. I'm assuming we're
Yes,
not.
we may need to have a patch release with that.
Um, were you able to help them get past that, though, whoever that was? I guess if there's a way to work around it, if it only affects a couple of people, that's what I'm wondering
Yeah,
about.
the problem, well, is that I have a user saying, "Hey, just running the bash snippet I posted fixed it for him," but I have another user saying that it didn't work for him, and
Hmm.
only after I gave him a patched release patch 0.8 version, a manually patched 0.8 version with this
Hmm.
PR I've put up, it began to work for him too.
Okay. So there were two
So it,
people you're aware of, and they are already able to get it working with the patch you provided privately.
one of them used the patch and it worked. Then it worked for him,
Hmm.
and one of them which didn't need it, didn't need the
Didn't need it.
patch for it to work. Then only the snippet.
Okay. So we're not aware of anyone
So
else that needs it.
not sure. Yeah,
Hmm.
but in general, I don't think there are too many people reporting about that.
Yeah. And is the fix in mastered already?
No, I I haven't really gotten to anything Rook related
Okay.
in last few days. As I also had on Sunday evening a water pipe burst at my parents' house, so I was a good amount of busy on Sunday and Monday to get it fixed.
Yeah. No fun.
Yeah,
All right. Yeah, it seems like if we can get it into master at this point, then at least people
yeah,
wouldn't be blocked for 0.9 ish upgrades, and we'll hold off on 0.8 for now.
Yeah, it sounds like with the very small number of affected people in that, we have been able to get them unstuck with either a script or, just kind of a uh, personal patch build. I'm okay with not doing a full release for it,
Hmm.
and then it going into 0.9,
yeah,
so which is the next milestone coming up,
yeah.
which upgrades will need to be done for.
Yeah, I also think that that would be enough because as I said, one user had a problem. I gave him a patched image tag. It worked for him, but another person for it. It just worked for them after the best snippet. So yeah, let's just put it in 0.9.
That sounds good to me. All right, let's
Yeah.
move on to
I'll,
0.9. Uh, so let's see. So what are some of the big items here, or ones at risk that we want to talk about? Travis, you want to talk about the Ceph volume, the PR later, or is that design only though?
Yeah, it's more of a design question. We can talk about that later.
Okay.
In general, though, I put a note there in the agenda for what does the end game look like for 0.9?
Right.
Because we've got a lot of things on the board still. Last night, I took a few things out of 0.9 that were obviously you know, nobody had picked them up, and they were on the Ceph side. And anyway, so I pulled them out. But I think we need to go through and triage what's left in 0.9 and really say, well, what are we doing? Because we have 2 weeks left if we're gonna get it out before KubeCon.
Right. Okay, do you, so before we, I guess, but maybe before we get into that, it looks like, Yanis, you have audio. It looks like you're muted right now, but you do have audio plugged in. Do you want, because of your class coming up, do you want to go ahead and do your agenda item for your Cassandra demo?
Whatever is convenient for you guys. Today, it turns out I don't have a class, and also I have two accounts because I will do the demo from my desktop, in which I don't have a microphone, so I'm speaking from my phone. Are you listening to me okay? I mean, is
Yeah,
the audio?
the audio quality is great. Yeah, I can hear just fine.
All right. So yeah, whatever is convenient. I don't have a problem at all.
Okay, cool. Let's stick with the 0.9 for right now, and then you will be the first topic in the community section.
All right. Sounds good.
Excellent. Thanks, Yanis. Okay, do we? Well, let me ask a few more questions about some of the issues we do already have out here. So I got a couple in KubeCon Shanghai. I got some questions about the CSI plugin, and so what is the status of that? Like, is the pull request that's open that is only for like documentation about how to use it? Are we going to be able to do any automations like deploy the CSI plugin for 0.9, or what's the status of that?
Right. Looks like Waman's not on the call today. So yeah, he's the one that's been driving that. And it's at this point, yeah, it's a documentation PR. It's like, here's how you run it. But it's really a separate thing right now. It's not integrated like we want it to. But I haven't, it looks like Waman hasn't had the bandwidth really to do the next step of that. So I think we'll need to live with documentation for 0.9 is what it's looking like.
So what is the like? Because it's built out of another repo, right? So what is the status of the functionality itself? Is it only an integration issue that has not been completed? Is the CSI plugin itself fully functional?
Yeah, from what I tested the documentation, and it was working, and
Okay.
And that, yeah, it's just such a disjoint integration right now or not integration. That's the main thing right now. Yep.
Got it. But you were able to like provision volumes for stateful applications and such with it?
Yeah, it was like a month back, so I'm trying to remember the details of all it was capable of, but it's in the documentation of what it's capable of. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Alex, you probably haven't got a chance to get back to 919 arbitrary PVs, right?
I don't know. For the last 2 weeks, as I said, including the last 2 days, I basically got to nothing recruiting, except sitting on Slack and trying to help a few people.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, this has to do with set volume.
1583 actually is about ready for merge. It should be in review column. The CRD for object store users.
Okay.
So that's not a worry.
The 2164. I'm not sure if you talked about it yet.
No, that's one that I was interested in as well, especially how it relates to to Dimitri and John, and them being stuck or not.
As far as I know, they need it ASAP, but it's kind of getting on my nerves slowly because the integration tests are failing. I think if you run them all at one, well, if you run the normal make test thing, but if I just run this file system test, wait a few seconds, then run the next one, I think it worked fine. So I think I added some debug output there and just didn't really get to it again.
You need another pair of eyes to look at that. Maybe I'll try and look at that again.
Yeah, I'll look into my debug things I added.
Yeah.
And if I'm not getting further after that, I'll let you know that I need some more help there.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Alex.
Thank you.
So, why do I have echo?
What?
Oh, sorry. Okay, I had some echo. Now, what I wanted to tell you was that for the integration tests that are failing, I had some of these myself, and maybe the reason is that some functions that integration tests use have a timeout and don't wait for things to be deleted. So if something is not deleted and the next test tries to create it, let's say, it may return an error and it may crash. So that might be the reason. I don't know. Just have it in mind.
When you mention it, I think we even have another issue on the roadmap, which is about making the tests parallel. Do you guys see a problem with if we already go ahead and split every integration test? Oh yeah, this one. And at least in the PR, well, in the 2164 there, if we split all tests, or well, I split all the integration tests into their own namespaces, because I think some integration tests are still using the same namespace. And possibly with that, I could reduce the issue I'm having.
Actually, they should
Because,
already
I
be
don't really need to wait for any deletion there. I just go, yeah, delete it and just move on to the next namespaces. And
Yeah, actually,
I thought that was already the
are
case.
Yeah, they're already using their own namespace, actually. Yep.
every test? Really? Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, okay, then I need to check why.
Yeah, I think some of the random issues we see are, like Yanni said, because we delete and move on before some stuff is cleaned up. But waiting for everything to delete before moving on would add a lot of time to the test too. And I'm not sure it was much more reliable from what I'd seen.
So, do we see it as a viable solution that unless we really require to have a test which deletes something and is like, let's really wait for it to be deleted, would we see that we kind of trigger like a go routine running in the background after let's say, the test run through, and then it's just like a defer cleanup, which is, running as a go routine or something, which is simply not blocking the thread anymore.
Well, we're basically using Kubernetes to do that for us, where we say delete, but don't wait for it to go away. And so in the background, it is supposed to clean them up. And theoretically, since it's in independent namespaces, I was hoping that would work, but it does seem to lead to some random issues.
Yeah, I think it's really the problem there with the timeout, what Jana said. The question is where the timeout is, at least in my case there. Because I'll also use in a second another namespace for that, for the mount user test. Mm-hmm. But it seems that also ironically, which I'm always mentioning when I talk about this peer, one of the functions we use in the file system client was still using the old version 1 alpha 1 something API for file systems. So if it was triggered with 0.7 already, I think, or 0.8, I think, beginning with that, it didn't delete the file system because, there are no file systems anymore with the v1 alpha something API version. And I fixed it, and after that, I think the issues also began. In addition to me adding a check, which is like, hey, wait for the pods for the MDSs or something to be deleted. I'll take another look to see now with the logs that I added. So.
Okay, so we'll take it offline. Sounds good.
All right, so I was just I was scrolling through the list of 0.9 milestone issues here, and there's not really a whole lot besides what we've kind of already been focusing on and talking about that, I think is, a complete, milestone blocker, really, Mm-hmm. I think we're kind of getting close to, a place where we could start making, pulling some of these issues out of this milestone and start paring it down for the end game here.
Right. Yeah. If I were to summarize what I want to see done, is so the Ceph volume integration, and then upgrades. I need to make a pass through the upgrade documentation, and I think with a small change there, it'll simplify upgrade path. And those are kind of the two things that I see as critical. There's some other smaller things too that we ought to get in, but that's what's on my mind.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I am as well. I think the caveat there is what exactly are the smaller things, and if we're prioritizing them, Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think we're in the same boat. We're in agreement.
So if we could have maintainers or some subset of us walk through all these issues, I think.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that, like this afternoon or something.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Okay. And then, so I think that, okay, so the next community meeting, is that after when we want to be shipping 0.9, or will the next community meeting be a good time to talk about 0.9?
Yeah,
In-game.
it'll be the week before KubeCon. So I think at the next one we need to.
Next community meeting is December 4th, it looks like.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Which is the week before KubeCon. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, let's offline. Let's go scrub the issues. The maintainers will do that, and then if anybody from the community has a strong opinion on any of the issues they want in 0.9, then please let that be known. Commenting on the issues. And we will keep tracking what we want to finish in the milestone, kind of drive this board, 0.9 board, towards completion. And at the next community meeting, we will discuss where we are and how, what's left at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one question, thinking about 0.9 is, so when we changed the Ceph types from alpha to beta, there was some conversion effort, and you spent quite a bit of time on that, right? So when we do the same thing to declare it stable, it's going to take some amount of time to do that same conversion, right? What's your sort of estimate for how much time it takes to convert, or for the dev effort for that? Because I'm not sure 0.9 will be. I'm not sure we're ready for that, but I just want to think about that as I'm thinking about when we're going to declare it stable.
Yeah, a couple things is the dev effort is now much less than it has been in the past for a couple of reasons. One is that we've been through this before. We have code that knows how to do that. We've got the patterns in place. That's one thing. But then the other thing is that CRDs, at least on later, more recent version of Kubernetes, CRDs support in-place migration with no schema changes. So there's actually more built-in platform support for it than basically the workaround we were trying to do by deleting CRDs and migrating them and all this nonsense. So it may be easier from that perspective.
Yeah. Do you call what version that starts with?
I think it's 1.12. So I don't think it was 11.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty much the latest. And a lot of the ones we do.
I think it's 1.13 actually. I don't think it's out yet. I thought it was 1.13, but anyway.
I thought 1.13 was migration with webhooks that you could specify some conversions. That conversion-less migration was, I think, 1.12, but we'd have to follow up on that.
Right, but we still need to support it for pre 1.12 anyway.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, anyway, something to think about.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to Yannis's update, his demo for Cassandra. It's great work that he's been doing there. Yannis, which of your accounts there do I need to, or maybe you can just take the sharing yourself because I stopped my sharing.
Okay, so let me see how I do that. Share. All right. I think that's the one. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, looks good.
Let me pull out the demo instruction here. Okay. So let's start. First of all, I have, let me take that from the other screen. Is this, okay. Can I move this? Okay, yeah, that's better. So first of all, we start with a Kubernetes cluster with 4 nodes. It has pretty much the default namespaces. So we will create two new namespaces: Rook Cassandra system for the operator and Rook Cassandra for our Cassandra cluster. And first of all, we apply the operator configuration. So now that we did that, we see that the Rook Cassandra system namespace has been created. And in that system, we have the operator running. So that is done. Next thing we're gonna do is Is the font okay? Is the font size okay? Should I maybe make it bigger?
I can read it.
Is it better like, wait, is it better like this?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so let's keep it like this. So let me, okay. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna see the user interface that the user of the Cassandra operator is seeing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use kubectl describe for the Cassandra cluster that we will create. And we take the last 40 lines because we can't fit it all. And what really interests us is in the last lines. So we get that running. And next, we create the Cassandra cluster. So let's take a look at what we need to create. This is pretty standard stuff: a namespace, a role, a service account, and a role binding for RBAC configuration. And this is the main interest point, Cassandra cluster. So what we need to specify is the version of the Cassandra cluster that will be used to pull the right image. This is a new field called mode. This can be either Cassandra or Scila. If you choose Cassandra, then it will give you a Cassandra cluster. If you choose Scila, it will give you a Scila cluster. Then data center is the data center we will create, its name, and now we specify one rack with 3 members. Each member has 5 gigabytes of storage of local disk, 1 CPU, and 2 gigabytes of RAM. So this is our configuration. Let's apply it. And what we see on the left screen is immediately what the operator did is update the status with the new rack, and it says it has 1 member and 0 members are ready. Also below we see the events which aid the user in debugging the operator. Maybe something went wrong, and the operator will inform the user through events. We see that the first member was created and now the second. And if we do a kubectl get all, we see some of the inner workings of the operator. We see that it has created a stateful set for the rack. It has created the stateful set has created 2 pods. We have a client service where clients connect to ready Cassandra members. And for each Cassandra member, we have a cluster IP service, which serves as the static IP for the specific member. So we see that our members are almost ready. They are ready. So the next step will be to demonstrate that our cluster can scale. And how will we scale it? We'll scale it declaratively with kubectl edit. So this opens up our editor, and all we need to do is change the desired members from 3 to 2. So immediately we see that the operator is informing the user that a member in this rack is scaling down. And it also has added a condition, which is member leaving. Conditions are an API convention of Kubernetes, and they're used to communicate things about what's happening in this resource. So the thing about scaling down in Cassandra is it's not fast, and it has 2 stages. First, you have to make sure that the Cassandra cluster has redistributed that member's data and removed it from the ring, and then you have to scale down the stateful set.
That's
No,
pretty much exactly the way that the like Ceph scaling does as well. The operator, remove OSDs and kind of wait for everything to be rebalanced around the cluster and then officially remove the OSD. So that's a very similar pattern we've seen before, Yanis.
yeah, I mean, I think most of the databases need to do something similar to this. And the pre-stop hook that the stateful set provides is not good enough because it's best effort. So what we do here in the operator essentially is that we set a label on the cluster IP service of the member, and the member sees this, decommissions, then sets the label to another value. The controller sees this and scales down the stateful set. And if we see now, the controller also does the cleanup. If we do a kube control get all, we don't see anymore the member service of the decommissioned member. Plus, let's prove that the member was cleanly decommissioned. We do a kube control exec on the first member. Node tool status. Node tool status gives us the state of the cluster. It's a CLI tool to communicate with the Cassandra cluster. And as we see, we have two members. If we didn't successfully decommission our member, the third member would be shown here as down. So what we want to show next is that we can scale up, and we can scale up by adding new racks. So let's also do that declaratively. So the only thing we need to do is we copy this and add a new rack to the list. Okay, I need to do some aligning. So I think those are aligned, yeah. And also this rack's name will be US East 1B, and it will have one member because I can't fit anymore on my PC. So after we do done this, we save it. And we can see here in the status, we have a new rack with one member, and it's not ready yet. And also the event on the object informs us that the new rack was created and it's scaled to one member. And if we wait a little bit, we will see that this member becomes ready. And again, if we execute node tool status to get the state of the cluster, wait for it. Okay, we see that we have three members. We have the two of them on a rack US East 1A, and the third one is US East 1B. It's the new member we just created. So this was the demo for this time. We can see that the Cassandra cluster can scale up, scale down, can go wherever you want. You can add new racks, for more resilience, for more to be fault tolerant. And for the next steps, we're thinking about upgrades in the versions of Cassandra. We're also thinking about backups, restores, and a big point of interest is running all local NVMe because the performance would be very, very, very much better. And that was the demo. Thank you.
Awesome, man. So this is fantastic, man. I think that some of the work you're doing here around it is kind of can serve as a model for how some of our other operators can be improved. Like doing the status here, that's kind of giving a up-to-date, real-time picture of what's going on in the cluster. What the racks are and like how many members they have and if they're ready or not. And then also events as well, kind of logging what's going on and what the operator is doing over time with events. Like that's a great model to use. I think that this is great work, man.
Thanks a lot.
Yanis,
Absolutely.
how close are you?
I couldn't agree more.
Nice
Thanks
work, Yanis. How close are you to getting this to master?
So the creation and the scale up is pretty much ready. I mean, I have the integration test running. I have everything running. It should it should use another round of code review, but other than that, everything is running. It should be pretty much ready to merge.
I think that would be a great thing to go to master before you start tackling upgrades and others, just so you get a nice checkpoint in master.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah, I totally agree with that too. And I would love to have Cassandra be part of our 0.9 hoopla that we get to make as part of the release notes and the accomplishments. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I'd like that too very much, if that's possible. I mean, and so about Cassandra and the integration test. Cassandra is kind of resource hungry. So, for example, if I give it less than 2 gigabytes, it will crash. It will get home killed. So this is kind of restrictive in what I can do in integration tests. For example, I can't really test scale up. I can't really do a scale up integration test or a scale down or things like that. Are there any plans maybe to expand the machine that Jenkins runs on?
We can do that. That should be fairly straightforward. It's a Jenkins config. So let's look at that offline.
And in the next few weeks, we're going to look at improving our integration tests to move to the CNCF infrastructure too. And I'm hoping that'll give us a lot more power, and we can look at multiple machines in our unit for integration tests and things like that.
Yeah, that'd be great. I agree. And it would be really great if someone could give me a hand with integrate. I don't know if the framework is going to change soon, so it doesn't really matter. But I was having some issues, and I'd like to have a one-on-one with someone and maybe give me a few tips: what to do here, what's best, how to move forward. I don't think I discuss it here, but I think it will take a long time, and I don't want to waste the whole meeting.
Hit me up, Jonas. Hit me up.
Okay, sure.
And those questions are around integration tests primarily, or other areas?
If it's integration tests, please consult Travis.
All right, sounds good. Yeah,
sounds good.
All right, so that's and I'll follow up as well this week now that I'm back from KubeCon Shanghai to do another pass at the pull request review, since that's needed also.
Yeah, that would be great. I have polished it as much as I could, so I hope you like it. And whatever doesn't sound right, just give me a ping.
Yeah, everything we've seen so far is looking very good, and we had already done like one of the earlier passes on it too. So I think this has been really good work. So I'm happy to see this can progress, and I think we all want to, take the next steps to get it into master. So this is great. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next into EdgeFS. A topic here is Anton still on? Was Dimitri there too, or just Anton? Did you want to bring this up?
Yeah, because
go for
Dimitri extremely busy right now. So I got several questions about our pull request in 0.8 branch, because right now looks like we don't pass tests, and I don't know why. It looks like something goes wrong with tests, but I don't know why. And I'm already have prepared pull request for master, and on my side everything looks fine, but I will send pull request lately. today lately. So that's it, and that's it. Maybe Dmitry had more questions, but currently I have now.
Anton, is this 2268?
Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, so I was just looking at the integration test for it too.
It would be great. It would be great if we can do the first pull request for EdgeFS against master branch. I see that you reorganized your commits, and that's really great. But can we rebase this from master?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's where we want it to go, to be merged into, right, as master. So having that pull request for against master is what we want to have, happen anyway. So that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
And then yeah, we can take a look at any of the integration test failures as well, and try to sort those out from if something is affected by the code that you've added, or if it's something, flakiness or intermittent issues or something. We could definitely follow up on that.
And Anton, is the plan to get this in for 0.9 into master?
It's my new pull request will have different commits, but the same code. I'm already reworked it, so that's it.
Okay,
but not the same comments. I didn't cherry pick it.
Okay. Do you guys want to get this into the 0.9 Rook release, which is, in a few weeks?
I hope.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I just took a quick look at the integration test too, and I do see that they succeeded on one of the Kubernetes versions, and usually that's an indicator that there's flakiness going on in the other builds. So anyway, once it's rebased on master, we can look at it and see if there's anything we can do about that, or if it's just known issues.
Yeah, I think as a community that it would be really amazing to be able to get both Cassandra and EdgeFS into 0.9. So we should do whatever we can to be able to expedite or get those pull requests integrated and feedback incorporated and all that before 0.9. So in the next 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds great to me. Awesome, Anton. This is great for both of these improvements here. I love it. Okay, Sebastian, are you on the line for the Ceph Orchestrator face-to-face meeting in Berlin?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, maybe it makes sense to first say something about the orchestrator in general, in case not everyone is aware of it.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
So the orchestrator in general is supposed to build a bridge between Rook and Ceph dashboard. So you can basically control a Rook cluster from within the dashboard or the Ceph command line. The orchestrator itself is supposed to work independent of Rook. So it is supposed to support Rook, Ceph Ansible, and DeepSeek to deploy a Ceph cluster. So in detail, it's basically a Ceph manager module that is controlling the Rook operator using custom resource definitions. And yeah, right now what's working, so you can get a list of services from the orchestrator module. You can filter pods for I think Rados gateways, for example. And you can also create services by creating the CIDs, the Rook CIDs. So we had a meeting last week in Berlin on Tuesday. So a bunch of Red Hat and SUSE folks met. We mainly went about the CLI spec for the Ceph command line tool. I've created a pull request, a documentation pull request that basically covers our result of that meeting. I've pasted it in the chat. That is supposed to end up in the official Ceph documentation. And the outcome is basically that the orchestrator is first of all focusing on day 2 operations, like adding OSDs, replacing OSDs. Installation of a Ceph cluster is something for the future. It turned out that the Ceph dashboard need to restart some services like the NFS service in order to actually control the deployment of the NFS gateway. So that's something that we need to support from within the operator, from within the orchestrator module. Then we decided that we now want to have 2 community meetings in the Ceph community calendar. The first one is Mondays at 4 p.m. UTC, and the second one is Wednesdays 9 a.m. UTC. One for the American-based people and one from Asia-based people. And the last one, the major topic that we discussed was the integration of Ceph volume into the orchestrator modules and into Rook. Like, for example, using Ceph volume for creating OSDs, like using the Ceph volume inventory command to make that available on the command line and on the dashboard. And I think it's heavily related to Trevor's work right now. Maybe Travis, you want to continue?
Yep, and I think we're gonna the Ceph volume. There's a couple of questions around that integration that's we'll cover later in the agenda, or is it next, or almost next? So yeah, and one thing maybe to point out about the orchestrator interface is that it's a place where there's a Rook module that drives the. It's a way for the dashboard to drive the operator, really. So it gives us a nice UI that under the covers will work with the operator to apply the desired state.
And as Sebastian was saying, it does that by editing or manipulating or creating CRDs, the Rook CRDs. Like, that is the interface in between the two?
Yes.
That's right.
Awesome. Cool. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I think it's the first instance of UI going on top of the operator, at least.
UI? You mean cube control?
Right. Graphical UI.
Oh, I see. Great. Yeah, cool. Thanks for the update, Sebastian. That sounds good. It sounds like it's a good looking list of folks there that were at that event.
Yeah, was a crowded meeting room.
Okay, Travis, do you want to talk about this timeout here, or did we already kind of address that a little earlier?
Yeah, that's just a brief comment, really, so people are aware that we're really running up against the 40-minute timeout occasionally for the integration tests, and it just kills them unnecessarily. So,
where is that from? Who sets where's the 40-minute set?
I think it's just in the Jenkins file.
I think it's also in the make file somewhere.
Or the make file. Okay.
I think it's in both somewhere. It's true when I worked on the mount user thing. I had to increase it like in the make file where it's calling the actual Go test, because I think in the makefile there's no timeout set. And in the Jenkins file there's somewhere either when go test or something is called, or as a general job timeout, but at least somewhere there adding a test a timeout flag with, I don't know, 60 minutes. Solved the problem that I had with timeouts there.
Mm-hmm. I think this very much speaks to as we add more storage solutions like Cassandra and Nixon to EdgeFS coming down the pipeline here, that doing the work to separate what we can and parallelize them, the things that can be run concurrently, makes a lot of sense, especially if we want to be able to have quick turnarounds on pull requests and integration builds and stuff.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to bring it up, just because it's a pain point that if you have any random failure, let's run it again. And it's really hard to flush out all these failures. And anyway, parallelism will help a lot.
Is with I think Greg, is it that's going to lead that effort of kind of doing the integration with this RCI with the CNCF? Is he a resource also that would be able to kind of make structural for foundational improvements like that too, to parallelize tests and stuff, not just do a straight port?
That's a good question. I was hoping to get through the port first, and then one step at a time.
Just throw beefier hardware at it.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure how much he would get into Golang and if we have to refactor things. But if it's a matter of just how we trigger the tests, well, let's call this suite and then that suite and then that suite in parallel, then
I see.
Hopefully he can help with that, but one step at a time.
His background is like Jenkins and CI stuff?
Yeah.
Got it. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think we have 10 minutes left, and this is the last item that is on the agenda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for the Ceph volume changes.
Oh gosh, I see my name.
Yeah, this topic, so just to summarize with Ceph volume. So Ceph volume will allow us to provision OSDs on raw devices or on a partition or on LVM devices that have already been created. And so where my PR stands right now, I'm only doing it on raw devices, and I want to get it working for partitions at least as well for 0.9. So I think the question I have here really is a post 0.9 issues, because I've got to focus on getting the rest of it solid first. But the question here is, if somebody's already created their LVM devices and volume groups in the CRD, we want to allow them to specify, put the wall and the DB on this LVM or this LV, and the data on that LV, or if it's file store, put the journal on that LV. Anyway, so it's a very prescriptive set of settings that we'll need in the CRD if we want to allow that. And currently, the only way to add new properties under the storage node that's general across orchestrators is with our config map, where we specified just whatever. It's just a map of strings, right? And it's I don't know. It didn't feel like the right fit for what we needed to specify with these logical devices. So the schema here, logical devices, and then under there we've got a bunch of properties. If we wanted to support this, I guess my question is, putting this on the main Rook types, it feels like we're creating properties that are specific to Ceph, but in a place that's general for everyone. And so it doesn't feel like the right solution, but it didn't feel like I wanted to add general config map settings either, or not the config map, but
Yeah, I'm
Does it
not
make
sure if I fully follow, but and then we can follow up more offline together. But my gut feel on this is that in the general Rook.io types, capturing physical layout or logical layout of the devices in a cluster is, a general thing that can have applicability because you're basically defining the storage substrate of the cluster, right? And then I don't quite yet see how, like a little config map, like key value properties on that logical or physical mapping topology of the cluster storage devices in the cluster. I don't yet see how that would be a bad place to capture this extra information. So that we should probably follow up on together.
Yeah, so we can follow up offline. I guess what I really want is strongly typed things on in the general place, but that's the question we know we've had since the general Rook types were created.
Yeah,
right.
That's true. Yeah.
Anyway, so it's not urgent for 0.9, so we can follow up later on it.
Yeah, and then I think also too that it becomes a trade. There is at a point where it becomes a trade-off between developer convenience and user experience, and reconciling those two is important. But I probably would in most cases lean towards user experience over developer convenience.
Right, and the user experience is where the CRDs looking or using strong types in the CRDs is a better experience. So that's anyway. What I should maybe do is put what it would look like with the other option with using.
Yeah, if you could mock up the two options so we can kind of just like have the two to compare and contrast, that would be helpful, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. Cool. So that's everything we had on the agenda here. I think the big themes that we have identified and want to proceed on is, we're getting in the last 2 weeks here for 0.9. We would love to get that out before KubeCon in December 10th, 11th, 12th. The next community meeting will be December 4th, and we will have done a pass of the issues in the milestone as a maintainer team to remove the issues that we don't think are critical. Anyone from the community that has opinions on issues that they think are important for 0.9, please weigh in on those. And we would love to see Cassandra and EdgeFS be included in 0.9 as well. That makes the release all that much more impressive and exciting. So I think that's a summary of all the discussions today. Does anybody have anything to add that was not on the agenda?
Yeah, Jared, I have a question. It might be really easy, but Giannis mentioned that Cassandra was resource heavy, and Ceph, when it rebalances, it uses a lot more resources than normal. So how does Rook make sure that these pods don't conflict with other pods on the Kubernetes cluster?
Yeah, that's a good question, Brian. So what I would probably say is that is not something specifically that was given a lot of attention to in the testing that we've done for rebalancing a cluster. There have been mostly smaller scenarios and not large data scenarios. So there hasn't really been a lot of attention to resource management and contention beyond like throttling it in the sense of doing it kind of one OSD at a time and letting it settle down before moving on to the next one. So that's really kind of the only attention that was paid to that scenario so far.
Okay, so you guys set like a hard limit and then just sort of leave it at that?
There's not a specific resource limit on the pods, but basically just we do one OSD at a time, let all that rebalance itself, and then move to the next one so that it's not a, more broadly scoped, lots and lots of placement groups moving around the cluster all at one time and using a whole bunch of resources at one time. So it takes longer to do because we're throttling it one OSD at a time, but it does use less resources and have less impact to performance overall that way, I think.
Oh, interesting. All right, so one OSD. Yeah.
The interesting work going on here really is in the upstream Ceph, where I think it's in Nautilus that they're looking at controlling or throttling how much memory is used by the OSDs, especially during rebalancing.
Oh, cool. Is that a config option that needs to be set, Travis, or is that like a automatic thing?
Yeah, I believe it'll be a config setting where it'll say, the OSD shouldn't use more than 2 gigs memory or a gig per terabyte type of thing.
Yeah, I remember Sage said there would be like a Ceph target memory or something, right?
Yeah.
That sounds like very nice to be able to, for the Rook operator or Ceph operator to be able to pass down the resource limits and requests that are in the CRD down into that config option.
Right. Because the challenge with Kubernetes resource limits really is that if you set, well, there's two of them. There's the scheduling limits, which we can use, but then there's the runtime limits, which if you go over them, Kubernetes will just kill your pod, and that's not healthy for the OSDs either.
Yeah.
So that's where we need the Ceph.
That's
we need
fair.
Ceph to control its resource limits.
Before the killer does.
Right. And so that's
fair enough.
The change we really need to look forward to.
Alrighty.
Okay, so I want to ask one last thing before we close.
Sure, Yannis.
So lately I have been trying to get Prometheus working for monitoring with Cassandra Operator. And I took a look at what Ceph has done, and I see you have added some annotations on some services for Prometheus to pick them up. So I don't know, is this still the way to do it? I mean, I searched a little online, and it seems that you need to add something to your Prometheus config in order for those annotations to get picked up.
I'm blanking on that right now, Yannis. I don't remember when I did the initial Prometheus support that I was adding any annotations that may have gotten added later on. I'm not sure.
Prometheus annotation? What do you?
Yeah, so I was just asking in case someone that was familiar with it or had used it lately or something like that.
With Prometheus annotations.
Yeah, so I think it was prometheus.io/port or something like that. So let me also send a link to that. Okay. Yeah, it was in the monitoring doc. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Okay. I think it's right here. Let me figure out how to send a group message on Zoom. Okay, chat. I think that's the one.
Yeah, for the Ceph manager, the standard Prometheus annotations are set.
Okay, so theoretically, if someone went on CoreOS Prometheus Operator, followed the quick start guide, and deployed Ceph, it would just work, right?
That's my understanding. Yes, I don't know if these steps have gone stale at all, but the last time that this was tested and working, that it should just work. Yes.
All right, I'll try it out, but I'm not sure that the annotations are working by default anymore. But I'll give it a
it's different with a Prometheus operator. The concept behind the Prometheus operator is that you create a service monitor object, which then contains labels and stuff like that to select certain services after. So if you look at the Prometheus YAML and stuff, this is how they are selected. The Prometheus annotations are just there for normal Prometheus ones, which are selecting having the default config.
Right, so if you go through this page here, then it should work because of the YAML we have. Yeah, that's what I was implying as well. Got it.
All right.
Yeah, so there's basically two modes for Prometheus to quickly go into that. You either reuse something like Prometheus operator and let the config be built through what Prometheus operator is offering you by service monitors. But if you, for example, have a normal running Prometheus, there's a default config which is basically using Prometheus.io/scrape, just scrape, and the second mode where you can specify the scrape, the port, the path, and everything basically.
All right.
So it's depending on how you deploy. But the Prometheus operator is basically taking this away from you because you just, create a service monitor.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, I hadn't really noticed the service monitor there.
Yeah, this is the file to look at here. Yannis.
Yeah.
This tells you like where to
yeah.
go look at it. You know, what service to hit, what endpoint to hit, all that sort of stuff.
All right, that sounds great. I'll just follow the way Seth has done it.
Alrighty. All right, we are over time now, so we gotta wrap it up here. But yeah, so we will follow up on and keep marching toward 0.9 for the next community meeting.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks everybody. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
Jared, Travis?
Bye.